YouTube? My name is Elizabeth and welcome back to the Owlery. Today I'm going to be doing a very special video that I'm actually really nervous about, and it is my top 10 favorite books of all time. And I'm really nervous about this because my top 10 favorite books of all time changes a lot. I'll read a new book and something will get added or something will get taken off the list. And so this is definitely just for me right now in this moment in August of 2016 what my favorite books are. And I guess to be fair, half of these at least have been on the list for a while, but just know that my favorite books of all time changes quite a bit, and my favorite book today might not be my favorite book tomorrow. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. It was surprisingly easy to put this list into like a 1 to 10 format, so even though I'm putting certain books down at the bottom, I still love these. Obviously, these are my 10 favorite books of all time. So let's just go ahead and get started. Number 10 is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Now, I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did, but it was absolutely phenomenal. Ready Player One is set in a world where everyone is kind of like hungry and all of the houses are stacked on top of each other, but there is this virtual world called Oasis where people can go to school and play video games and just do a whole bunch of stuff. And the creator of Oasis died several years back, but he laid Easter eggs throughout the Oasis video game, and anyone who can discover all of the Easter eggs and kind of solve this puzzle is said to be able to inherit the Oasis creator's fortune. And so it follows this kid who, after like 10 years, no one has discovered the very first Easter egg that kind of like starts the puzzle. And just one day, our main character happens to find the Easter egg and solve the first part of the puzzle, and it just leads him on this huge chase to solve the puzzle before everybody else, because once the first Easter egg was found, then everyone else was able to find it. And it's an amazingly awesome game, especially for anyone who is a fan of 1980s like lore and geeky stuff. And it was just a great book. I was so pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did. At number 9, I have the Lone City series by Amy Ewing. The first one is The Jewel and the second one is The White Rose. The Black Key, the third and final book in this trilogy, is set to come out in a couple of months, and I'm really excited. But the first two books pleasantly surprised me so much. This is a dystopian, and in this world, the lower class girls are used to be surrogates for the upper class women. And so it follows this one girl who is sold at auction to a high class woman so that she can hold her baby, and it follows her trying to escape and get out of this life because it's not what she wants, obviously. And then she finds out that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than anyone is aware, and it's just so good. If you guys are fans of dystopian, you need more dystopian in your life since the Hunger Games or any of the other popular dystopians that have been released in the last couple years, The Jewel and The White Rose and The Black Key are definitely the way to go. This series is absolutely freaking phenomenal. At number 8, I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and this is about a mysterious night circus that travels around Europe at night, and they only have shows at night, and it's not advertised that they're going to be here or there. They just kind of like show up, and then everyone from all around comes to the night circus, and it's just this beautiful setting, and it's so colorful, and it is written amazingly. And the main plot follows two magicians who work at the night circus, and they kind of have a competition between one another about who can create the best magic and the best show and the best tent and stuff like that. And this book is just so good. I just can't put into words why it's amazing, except for that it's just the most beautiful writing that I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, I think in order to kind of explain a good introduction to it, the first paragraph is entitled Anticipation, and it says, "The circus arrives without warning. No announcements precede it. No paper notices on downtown posts and billboards. No mentions or advertisements in local newspapers. It is simply there when yesterday it was not." And that's a really good explanation about the night circus. It's just, I think the flow of the book is just beautifully well done, and I enjoyed this so much. This has amazingly huge hype on book 2, but I'm telling you, it lives up to it. If you're not big on reading books with a lot of hype, I promise you, you will not be disappointed by The Night Circus. Number 7 on the list is something super generic, and it is the Hunger Games series by Suzanne Collins, but it really is. I could reread this series over and over and over again. I've already read it twice, and I just found something new and unique about it every single time that I read it. And if you're not familiar, The Hunger Games is about a girl who lives in a dystopian society where there are different districts, and she lives in the poorest district, District 12. And every year there is something called the Hunger Games, where a boy and a girl are chosen at random to compete in the Hunger Games, where you fight to the death, and the winner, who is the last person standing, gets glory and money and food, and basically in the capital where the Hunger Games is held, and the most rich district of all of the districts is just super corrupt, and everyone is well fed, and they eat so much that they have medicine to throw up in order so that they can just eat more and more. And it's just a super amazing book, and there's so many twists and turns, and the final book, Mockingjay, is just amazing. And I'm pretty sure that almost everyone on booktube has read this series yet. If you haven't though, you seriously need to jump on the train, because it is an absolutely amazing book series. At number 6, I have The Help by Katherine Stockett, and this is about a girl who is trying to be a journalist, and she lives in Mississippi in the early 1960s. After finding out that her nanny and housekeeper who basically raised her has died, she decides to write an article about the life of the help in the South, and how white people treat black people in that day and age, and how, you know, black people basically raise white children, and how those white children become the same people that their parents are, treating the black community and the black help like complete and total crap. And it sounds really deep and really heavy, but even though it is those things and it deals with a lot of really great topics, it's freaking hilarious. Skeeter, who is our main character, who is the journalist, is just so funny, and I love how she doesn't try to conform to what a lot of her southern friends are with, you know, putting in separate bathrooms for their help because they're unsanitary, and just not being okay with the way that black help is treated in the South in the early 60s. And it was just such an enjoyable read, and there's so many hilarious moments, and I just think it's a great book that deals with diversity and racism, and it's so funny at the same time, and it's very, very well written. If you guys have seen the movie but not read the book, you're really missing out, because there are several things that are left out that were so key to the book that I just don't know how they made the movie without them. So I would highly recommend reading this if you enjoyed the movie. Number 5 on the list is the Selection series by Kira Cass. And the first book of the selection follows America, who is chosen at random to compete in a competition between her and like a whole bunch of other girls. I don't remember how many, 35 other girls, to win the heart of Prince Maxon and become the princess of Ilia, the country that they live in. This is a dystopian. Ilia is the far distant future of America, and in America, our main character is actually named after the country that is now Ilia, and so I thought that was a really interesting point. A lot of people explain this as The Bachelor for like royalty, and it definitely is, but it has dystopian aspects in it, and that's what really made me fall in love with this series, is the dystopian pieces. And it's like a dystopian that reads like a contemporary, and this book series is just so addicting. I read the first 3 books within a couple days of each other, and then I read The Heir and The Crown right when they came out, and they're just amazing. Like, it's literally a train wreck that you just can't stop watching. Like, it's that favorite show that you're addicted to that's not even very good, but you just need to know how it ends. Like, that is the way that I can explain the Selection series. Once you read the first one, you will be addicted and you will not want to stop reading, because I don't know how Kira Cass does it, but she knows how to write a damn good book, and you just cannot put them down. The next book on this list is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I really, really wish that I can put ACOTAR and ACOMAF on the same spot in this list, but I haven't read A Court of Mist and Fury yet, and I'm so mad at myself. But it's on my, I'm recording this, like I'm pre-recording this for when I go on vacation, and so I should be reading A Court of Mist and Fury right now while I'm on vacation. But A Court of Thorns and Roses is basically about this girl named Feyre, and she is hunting to feed her family in the woods, and she accidentally shoots, well, she doesn't accidentally shoot the wolf, but she shoots the wolf not knowing that it is a fairy in disguise, and then the High Lord of this area of the fairyland comes to kind of basically kill her to balance out the life that the fairy life that she took, and instead of killing her, he decides to bring her back to the fairy realm where she can never leave, she can never go back to the human realm, to kind of pay for this fairy life that she's taken. And it's amazing. Like, Sarah J Maas is an amazing author, and at first I wasn't 100% sold on the idea of this book. Like, I've never liked a fairy book in my life. This is the first one I've ever enjoyed, and it was really, really good. I think another reason why it's amazing is because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and when I read the synopsis, I didn't really see it, but there's absolutely correlation between the two books. You can definitely see where the bits and pieces of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale come into this story, and it's so enjoyable. I will tell you as well that this is not a young adult novel. This is a new adult novel. A lot of people are mistaken because it is Sarah J Maas has written new young adult books in the past, and they think this one is young adult. It's not. It's definitely new adult. It has sexual content. There's several sexual scenes, and I really enjoyed them, but I'm also 25 years old. So if you are, 13, 14, I definitely would recommend waiting a couple years before you read this, but if you're comfortable with all the sex, read it because it is so good, you guys. So good. Before I get down to books 1, 2, and 3 on my list, I will have to tell you that Harry Potter is not on this list. It is definitely an honorable mention, and while I love Harry Potter, and I could reread it any time, I just feel like, number one, it's obvious. Everyone loves Harry Potter. Everyone knows it's everyone's favorite book, but it's just not on my list, and it's my list, so I can do that. And I think that's really the only explanation that I have, that I just really didn't want it on this list. But another reason is because I didn't read it when I was younger. I did not read Harry Potter when I was in middle school and high school like everybody else as the books were coming out. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be unique, and I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. So instead of reading Harry Potter, I read another huge middle grade series. This is a 10-book series, and the first book is called Pendragon, The Merchant of Death by D.J. McHale. Now, because I read this at such a pivotal time in my childhood, this has had such a huge impact on my life. I love this series. It is my baby. It is everything. And this is my Harry Potter. That's how I explain it to people. Like, as much as you love Harry Potter is how much I love the Pendragon series, because I read it at such an important time in my life. So this is basically about a boy named Bobby Pendragon, and one day his uncle comes to him and says, "Bobby, I need your help. I need you to help me with some people who are in trouble." Bobby is like, okay, I guess. And they go on an adventure through a flume which shoots you through time and space to a different world. And the world that they go to is called Dendron, and basically there is this problem on Dendron with a society who is kind of like taking advantage and using a different society as slaves, and he kind of has to help out. But the basic overall story of this series is that Bobby and a bunch of other people are travelers, and their job is to kind of save all of these 10 worlds from a main bad guy whose name is Saint Dane. Basically the Voldemort of this book series, and it's amazing. I feel like it takes a lot to explain this series, but if you guys are interested, if this sounds even a tad bit interesting to you, let me know down in the comments below and I'll convince you to read it. I could tell you 500 reasons why you should read this series, but I just don't have time enough for that in this video. So just know that I love this series so freaking much. The second book on the list is the Remnick Chronicles series by Mary E. Pearson. I read The Kiss of Deception and The Heart of Betrayal as they were coming out, and I fell in freaking love. The Kiss of Deception follows a girl named Leah who is betrothed to marry the prince of a neighboring kingdom, and she does not want to marry him because she's not in love with him. She's never even met him. She thinks he's going to be old and ugly and mean, and so she runs away with her best friend and starts a new life. But what Leah doesn't realize is that the prince that she was betrothed to marry and the assassin from a third kingdom come and follow her to this town that she's run away to. Now, when they meet Leah, they do not tell her that he is a prince or he is an assassin, and the reader doesn't know either. So we know that she meets these two men. We know one of them is the prince. We know one of them is the assassin, but we don't know who is who. So it was really a guessing game and trying to figure out who is who, and obviously there's a bit of a love triangle going on between Leah and the prince and the assassin, but I like that it was done right because Leah clearly knows by the end of the first book who she wants to be with, and it's a very clear answer about where this love story is going to go, and it's not like huge, horrible love triangle, which is what I love about this series, but it's just there's a bit of magic going on, and there's adventure, and like the 3 different kingdoms warring against, well, not really warring, but there's definitely some tension there in the first book, and it's just amazing. And there's deaths. I love that it doesn't like wait and build up the reader for there to be some huge horrible death to really like tear jerk you or just do it for like shock value. But this series is absolutely amazing. I wish that I could have the 3rd book in this list, but I haven't read it yet. I need to read it. I'm going to be reading it this week so that I can review it next week in a live show. And the last book on this list, my favorite book / book series of all time, is the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. This isn't even all the books. Like, I'm missing, oh, good gravy. I'm missing the 3rd one. So it goes Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, Winter, and then there's Stars Above, and then before a prequel is Fairest. And so, like, there's so many books in this series, and they're huge, and I don't even own all of them. But this is my favorite series of all time. I'm gonna put these down so I can easily explain to you guys why. So Cinder follows a girl named Cinder, and she's an android living in the very distant future of Earth in New Beijing. And one day the Emperor's son comes to her and asks her to fix his robot that has very sensitive information on it. And a lot of things happen from there. New Beijing and the rest of the world are also dealing with a horrible disease, plague that kills a lot of people called ludimosis, I believe is how you pronounce it, and that causes a lot of problems. And there's also a lot of problems with Earth and the planet of Luna, which is actually our moon, that has a population on there that is ruled by their own queen. And this series is absolutely amazing. It's science fiction and fairy tale retelling and a little bit of fantasy all wrapped into one, and I love that each book we introduce a new character, and this series is my absolute life. I'm so sad that it's over now. I just want 10 more books in this series, and I really think that she could write more books in this series. It's amazing. Again, I could tell you 5 million reasons why you should read this book, but if you want more information on why I love this book so much and why you should read it, we'll have a discussion down in the comments, because whatever apprehension you guys have about not reading this book series, because practically everybody in booktube has read it, whatever apprehension you have, let me know in the comments and we'll have a conversation and I'll help you work it out, because everyone needs to read this series. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video of my top 10 favorite books of all time. I really enjoyed making it. It was so hard to pick 10 of my favorite books ever, but then again it was actually really easy too to talk about why they're my favorites. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!